Hey guys, it's your boy, the Jam06 here, and this is going to be a little bit different video today. I'm going to be switching things up for the next few videos and have them be more focused on guidance and advice. I just sort of want to see, what sticks, if I can maybe gain a little bit more traction and also maybe help out some people in the process. So, this video is going to be different from my normal videos, not only just because it's like different subject matter, it's not just strictly gameplay, but this is one of the first videos that I've actually used a script for. All of my other videos are unscripted, and this one I am actually recording the voiceover separate from the gameplay, so what you're seeing on screen now was just recorded on its own, and then what you're hearing was recorded, right now. And also this one is probably going to be a little bit more laid back than some of my recent videos. I don't know. That's all up to how I decide to edit this tomorrow morning, because it's 11:13 p.m. right now, but I just kind of wanted to record this right now because I might not be able to in the morning. My house is kind of loud, so this video's topic is about how I don't think it's necessarily good for people to be in tune with the news all that much, and be like reading articles or that sort of stuff. Basically what the title of this video says, you don't need to know what's going on. So I've noticed a lot in my personal life that a lot of people are watching the news, or if they aren't watching the news and they're saying oh, I don't like to watch the news, they're on social media, or they're listening to political podcasts. Like, for instance, my dad, he listens to a lot of Dan Bongino, Mark Levin, that sort of stuff. So the reason why I don't think it's all that great to be constantly around news, and why it's not a great idea to be absorbed into that sort of thing, is because of a little thing called sensationalism. Now, for those of you that don't know, sensationalism is basically focusing on the exciting parts of a story, or focusing on maybe rumors about the story rather than the actual story itself. And the reason why this can be a bad thing is, one, it often leads to over-reporting, or even leaving out certain parts of the story. Even on the Wikipedia article for sensationalism, it says, quote, "This style of news reporting encourages biases or emotional loaded impressions of events rather than neutrality, and may cause a manipulation to the truth of a story." So that's why that's the problems with sensationalism. Now, I want to bring up another quote. This one is from Farewell to Manzanar, and it's stuck with me ever since we read that book in the 6th grade. But the quote is, "The gossip tends to thrive on bad news, not good. Stories such as these spread through the camp and grew in our minds like tumors." Now, this is talking about gossiping. However, the underlying thing that's being said here is that bad news travels fast. Good news usually doesn't travel fast. Good news usually doesn't make the headlines. It's always the bad news that makes the headlines. So when you take the concept of sensationalism and you take that quote from Farewell to Manzanar, you get something where news organizations usually overreport bad things in a story, or overreport bad stories, as opposed to good stories. For an example of this, the fatal airplane crash statistics are a very good case of this. I know that, even if you're just on YouTube and you aren't looking at news sites, or you aren't listening to podcasts, or if you're not on any other social media besides YouTube, I know I've heard of how many plane crashes there have been this year. And the thing is, there actually haven't been that many fatal crashes. In 2024, in January, there were 19 fatal crashes involving, aviation and airplanes and stuff like that. Now, in 2025, in the same month, January, there were only 10. So, that's that's not really a fairly big gap in the number. It's only 9, although I guess that is almost double. But it seems like it's a lot more because the news is reporting on so many of them. And it seems like a lot, but even like 19 seems like a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, if you think about how many planes are going all over the US, it's got to be like millions of planes every single day. So 19 isn't a whole lot. Even that's not a whole lot. And that's in 2024. In 2025, there's only been 10. And I don't have, well, I guess I do. In February, in this year, there were only 4. And last year, there was 12 in February. And that's fatal plane crashes. That's not just like plane crashes in general. That's, people have died, in those. Next up, I'm going to bring up a personal story of what kind of happens when you're constantly around bad news. So, I don't remember the exact details of what exactly the news story was. All I remember is that a car had somehow ended up on the roof of someone's house and some people had died. I heard about this through my mom, and she is someone who's on Facebook, pretty consistently. I wouldn't say she's like addicted to Facebook, but she's on there pretty consistently. And that had come up in her feed that had happened. And so she, told me about it like she usually does. I don't know why. I don't like watching the news. I don't like listening to the news. But she told me about it. And she was, saying, man, isn't that horrible? Isn't that horrible? And then not even like 2 minutes later, she's like laughing and, talking to people that were, around the house and, acting like, she didn't just like say, hey, a couple people died, And it wasn't that short of a time period. It was pretty much instantly that she went from, oh, this is a horrible thing, to laughing and like, just, talking to people and laughing and all that stuff. So the reason why I bring this up, and the reason why this pertains to being constantly about bad news and why this is a bad thing, is I feel like, now I'm not like a licensed psychologist or anything like that, so, what I'm saying is just based off my personal experience. It seems like in our day and age, we have so much access to information and so much access to stories and so much access to things that are happening all over the world that we get so exposed to the bad things that are happening in this world. Like, we hear about every single little skirmish, war, event, things like that we just get so used to the bad news that we forget that people actually are affected by these events, because it's so easy to just read something on a news headline and completely disassociate yourself from it and just completely remove yourself from that situation entirely and be like, oh yeah, that's a horrible thing, but we don't think about, oh, that's actually the thing that's happening to people. And like I said, the reason why this happens is because we're constantly around it, so we get used to it. We get complacent. Just like my mom, she knows that it's a horrible thing, but she forgets that person's no longer here on this earth. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. And then she just moves on instantly, completely forgetting that that's a real person. That thing happened to that person. So you're like, Jam, you're spitting all this stuff out, but you're just as bad as the news organizations. You're just making us feel bad. But I actually have a solution for this, and it's literally just as easy as disconnecting from social media and stop watching the news. We can all use less screen time. Why don't we start by not watching the news anymore and maybe disconnecting from social media a little bit. Me personally, I don't have any social media accounts aside from YouTube, which I wouldn't even consider that social media, which I do need to stop using YouTube as frequently because my screen time's 6-7 hours a day, and that's not healthy. But I feel like we just need to disconnect from social media, take a break. Maybe I'm not exactly sure how you would do it without completely deleting your account. I mean, I'd imagine you could go to, maybe some of your social media followers and say, hey, I need to disconnect from social media a little bit. It's not good for me. I'm constantly being exposed to all these bad things followed by good things, and it's just an emotional roller coaster for dopamine, and then getting down into a depressive state because I just saw someone get beheaded on reels. It's this constant high. I need to take a break for a little bit. And then saying to your followers, hey, if you see me post, can you just remind me, hey, take a break? That could be one way of doing it, is just asking your followers, asking your family members, if you only use social media for your family, hey, I need to take a break for my mental health. I need to take, a month off social media. Can you remind me of this? If you see me posting, just put down a comment saying, hey, I thought you said you were going to take a break. You need to take a break. That keeps you accountable. It puts you more in community with one another, even though it doesn't seem like it because you're taking a break from social media. You're still, you're bonding with someone a little bit more. Even though you're not connected to social media, you're still bonding with someone more. As for stop watching the news, I don't really have a way to, like, wean someone off that, but I mean, just like stop watching it, I guess. And if you're worried about, like, missing out on what's going on in the world, like, what if World War III started? I don't have social media. I can't watch the news. I won't know. Listen, if it's important enough, people will talk about it, and you'll know about it. Because I'm guessing this video isn't going to reach so many people that absolutely everyone stops watching the news, and absolutely everyone, hops off social media. I'm not expecting that. And even if it does reach that many people, how many people are actually going to follow through on the advice that I give them? Most people, when they watch these advice videos, I feel like they just, watch it, say, oh, that's cool, and then never change. They just never change. People are going to know about events. Just because they're not going to listen to me, they're not going to view this video. So you'll still be informed about the major stuff. You just won't know about the little teeny minor stuff, which you don't need to know everything. You don't need to be informed about everything. Some people, they like their privacy. I like my privacy. I don't need to be informed about everything. You don't need to be informed about everything about me. It's that simple. But yeah, people will let you know. So don't even worry about not being in the loop, because people will let you know. And you might be wondering now, okay, so you just told me not to be on social media, you told me not to be on the news, but now you're saying that people will let me know, and isn't that the same thing? Because people will tell me about the bad stuff too, because people like to spread bad stuff. That's what always goes around, is the bad stuff. Won't that be the same thing as me just being on social media? Yes, to an extent. It won't be as bad. I mean, I know for me, even like a city that's like 30 minutes away, I still didn't know about some of the stuff that I heard on there until I had heard about it from someone weeks and weeks after. So it's not going to be as much of a... It's not going to be as large of a quantity of bad things in your life, or bad news in your life. There is still going to be that, because people are people, and people are going to, talk about things. They're gonna, they're gonna share stuff. They're gonna share bad stuff, but it's not going to be as large of a quantity in your life, and that's just going to make you, that's just going to make your mental health a little bit better, because you're not going to be around that. Also, just side tangent, this isn't even in the script or anything. Last like 4 minutes weren't even in the script. But side tangent, if you do decide to go off social media, another thing that might help is to replace it with just being social. Like, go off social media and then make some friends. Plan out something with them. Plan out like, lunch, or like, I don't know, go to an arcade, or go bowling, go to a concert, go to, a rodeo or something like that. That might help too. with getting you off social media is to replace that perceived social interaction that you get from social media with actual social interaction that you get from real life. And I also guarantee you that real life social interaction is going to be 100 times more fulfilling than the social media interactions that you have with people online. So, anyways, I'll stop ranting now. This video is going to be like 20 minutes long, or 18 minutes or something like that, depending on where it is when I finish editing all of this. But let me know if you like this content a little bit more. Let me know if you like me just like sitting down, talking, sharing my thoughts and opinions about things, and sharing some advice and some experiences that I've had in my short 18 years. Let me know if you like that sort of content, or if you want me to go back to gaming. I'll go back to gaming, but I feel like this is more in line with who I am as a person, this sort of content, because I like helping people. I like, just talking about stuff, stories, advice, like I said. So, yeah, let me know if you like this better, if you like gaming content better. I'm an open book. I'm pretty much at the whims of whatever my audience decides. So, also, real quick, return for the returning viewers that are from the Daggerfall video. Thank you so much for 1,000 views on that short, and I think it was 100 something on the video. I don't remember how much it was exactly, but all I know is that video blew up, and I put a lot of effort into that, so it's great to see that it's showing. It's showing in the views. That's really great. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, guys. All right. Well, I'll stop rambling now. This is like a Midwest goodbye, I just say that I'm gonna stop, and then I don't stop. I could try slapping my knees and say, well, I suppose, but I don't know if that'll work. Anyways, see y'all in the next one. I have a couple of video titles lined up, a couple of brainstorming in Google Docs, stuff like that. I have 6 more, so expecting content pretty soon if I decide to actually record it. I don't know. Anyways, bye.